Inside the gym I built with my own hands, I found my wife and my best friend together. And in that moment, everything I thought I knew shattered. My name is Ethan Cole, 42 years old. To most people in town, I was the gym guy. I wasn't just a trainer. I was the man who had taken a dying warehouse and turned it into a place where people found strength, confidence, and a sense of belonging. My fitness center wasn't just a business. It was my dream, my second home, my pride. But little did I know, that same gym would become the stage for the greatest betrayal of my life. It was a chilly November evening, the kind where the wind cuts through your jacket and the sky feels like it's collapsing into darkness earlier than it should. Business hadn't been great lately. Memberships were dropping, bills were piling up, and I spent most of my evenings hunched over my office desk, drowning in spreadsheets, instead of coaching clients like I used to. That night, as I sat alone in my office, a faint sound cut through the silence. Muffled laughter. A woman's laughter. Light, soft, but unmistakably familiar. My pulse quickened. Emily? It couldn't be. My wife never stayed late at the gym. She wasn't a trainer. She rarely even visited unless she needed me to come home early. Curiosity prickled at the back of my neck. I stood, pushing my chair back, and followed the sound. It was coming from the private training studio at the far end of the gym. The thing is, that room was locked most evenings, unless a client booked it. And tonight, no one had. My heart thudded in my chest as I reached the door. Through the small glass window, I saw movement. 2 figures. I pushed the door open, and in that instant, my entire world split in half. There was Emily, my wife of 18 years, in workout clothes I hadn't seen before, fitted, revealing, glowing under the fluorescent lights. And with her, spotting her, standing far too close, was Kyle, my head trainer and my best friend since college. They weren't just exercising. The way he held her waist as she pretended to squat, the way her hand lingered on his arm longer than necessary, the way they laugh like 2 teenagers hiding a secret. It was intimacy. It was betrayal, painted right in front of me, in the gym I had built with my sweat and sacrifice. My breath caught in my throat. I wanted to shout, to demand answers, to throw Kyle out right then and there. But something in me froze. Instead, I stood silently watching them for a second too long. And that's when I realized this wasn't new. This wasn't a mistake. This had been happening for a long time. Kyle finally noticed me. His smile faded. His hand dropped from Emily's waist. She spun around, her face pale, eyes wide like a child caught stealing. "Ethan," she whispered, almost too soft to hear. But I didn't reply, not a word. Instead, I turned, walked back to my office, and closed the door. My hands trembled as I gripped the edge of my desk, knuckles white, trying to steady myself. This wasn't just about my marriage. This was about betrayal on every level. My wife, my best friend, in my gym, my dream, my life, my trust. All of it felt like it was collapsing in on itself. And in that suffocating silence, one thing became clear. They thought they could take everything from me, but they had no idea I was already planning my revenge. The next morning, sunlight poured through the blinds in my bedroom, but it didn't bring warmth. Emily was already up, bustling around the kitchen like nothing had happened. The smell of coffee filled the air, but instead of comfort, it only churned my stomach. I sat at the table staring at her. Her hair was damp, freshly showered. She looked radiant, too radiant for someone who should have been ashamed after what I'd seen the night before. "Morning," she said, her voice sweet, casual, like every other morning for the last 18 years. She slid a mug in front of me. "You were up late at the gym again?" The audacity.
I forced a smile. Yeah, busy night. Her eyes flickered for a second, like she was checking if I knew something, but then she recovered, humming as she moved around the kitchen. I wanted to confront her right there, to shout, I saw you with Kyle. How long has this been going on? But something inside me held back. If she and Kyle thought I was blind, I could use that to my advantage. Instead of blowing up, I would watch. I would learn. I would wait. Later that day, I walked into the gym, pretending as if nothing had changed. But now, I saw everything differently. Kyle was already there, barking orders at a group of clients, his voice deep and commanding. He looked at me and smiled, that fake smile I used to believe was genuine. "Good morning, boss," he called. "Morning," I replied, my tone flat. As the day dragged on, I noticed things I had ignored before. The way Emily suddenly started helping out at the gym more often. The way Kyle always found an excuse to be near her, adjusting her form, showing her exercises, laughing at her jokes. I watched them like a hawk, every touch, every glance, every secret smile they thought no one else noticed. But I noticed. At one point, I walked into the storage room and found Emily standing far too close to Kyle, whispering. Their laughter stopped the second they saw me. "Oh, Ethan," Emily said too quickly. "We were just talking about new protein suppliers." "Yeah," Kyle added, scratching the back of his neck. "Nothing important." Their nervousness was obvious. They were slipping. That night, I sat alone in my office long after the gym had closed. The silence was heavy, the weight of betrayal pressing down on me. I pulled out old photos from the filing cabinet, pictures of me and Kyle back in college when we were just two broke kids with dreams of opening a gym together. We had been brothers. He was the one I trusted most. And Emily, she had been my rock, the woman who supported me when I poured every cent into this gym, when we struggled to pay rent, when I worked 18-hour days. And now both of them, the two people I loved most, were standing against me. But the thing about betrayal is, it awakens something in you, a fire, a determination. If they thought they could break me, they were wrong. I pulled out my notebook and began writing. Not a training plan, not a business strategy, a revenge plan. Step 1, watch. Step 2, gather evidence. Step 3, take everything back. And as I scribbled down my thoughts, I knew one thing for certain. By the time I was done, neither Emily nor Kyle would ever step foot in this gym again.
I always believed the gym was my sanctuary. The smell of chalk, the clang of barbells, the steady rhythm of treadmills. It was the heartbeat of my life. But now, every sound felt sinister. Every laugh between Emily and Kyle echoed like betrayal against the walls I had built with my bare hands. For days, I pretended nothing was wrong. I smiled, I nodded, I shook hands with clients, all while my insides twisted like barbed wire. But when you live with betrayal, silence becomes unbearable. You start craving the truth, no matter how much it hurts. And I was ready for the truth. The first slip. It happened on a Wednesday evening. The gym was packed, music blasting, bodies moving in rhythm. I was sitting behind the counter, pretending to check the membership system, when I heard Emily's laugh. Not just any laugh, that laugh. The kind she used to reserve for me, late at night, when we lay in bed talking about our dreams. I looked up. She was near the squat racks with Kyle, her hand lightly brushing his arm. He leaned in, whispering something that made her giggle and bite her lip. Rage burned through me, but I stayed still, gripping the edge of the counter so hard my knuckles turned white. That's when I saw it. Kyle slipping his phone into her hand. Quick, subtle, like it was a habit. And Emily? She tucked it into her pocket without missing a beat. My chest tightened. Why would he give her his phone? The secret meeting. That night, I pretended to be asleep as Emily showered and slid into bed. I could feel the glow of her phone against the sheets, her fingers moving quickly, typing, deleting, typing again. At 1:17 a.m., she whispered, "Good night, love."
but she wasn't talking to me. The next day, I decided to test something. "Emily," I said casually over breakfast, "I need you to cover the evening shift tonight," one of the trainers called out. Her spoon froze midway to her mouth. "Tonight?" "Yeah, 7 to 10. Shouldn't be a problem, right?" She hesitated, just for a moment, before smiling. "Of course, no problem." But I knew that look. I had seen it before. Years ago, when she tried to hide a surprise birthday gift, only this wasn't a gift. This was something darker. So I made a plan. The revelation. At 6:45 p.m., I parked 2 blocks away from the gym, killed the engine, and waited. My heart pounded like a drum. Sure enough, at 7:05, Emily walked out of the gym. Not in her workout gear, but in a sleek black dress I hadn't seen before. She glanced around nervously before slipping into Kyle's car. They drove off together. I followed. My grip on the steering wheel tightened as their taillights guided me across town, past neon signs and restaurants, until they pulled up at an upscale steakhouse, one of those places where the cheapest meal costs more than a week's rent. From my spot across the street, I watched them walk in hand. Kyle leaned close, his hand pressing the small of her back, a gesture that used to be mine. And Emily, she was glowing, like a woman who had never been married, never made promises, never shared a life with me. My stomach dropped.
The conversation that changed everything. I couldn't stay outside. I had to know. I pulled my hoodie over my head, walked into the restaurant, and slipped into the shadows near the bar. From there, I had a perfect view of their booth. Emily leaned across the table, her hand covering Kyle's. "So, when do we tell him?" she whispered. Kyle smirked. "Not yet. The longer he thinks we're loyal, the easier it'll be. Once he signs over those expansion contracts, we'll have the gym in our names." My blood ran cold. Emily giggled. "He trusts you too much. It's almost funny." Kyle shrugged. "That's what makes this so easy. By the time he realizes, we'll have everything. His gym, his clients, his money, and," he leaned in closer, "his wife." Emily's eyes softened. "You promise we'll leave after? Start fresh? Just you and me?" Kyle kissed her hand. "Of course, babe. This gym will be ours. He'll be left with nothing but dumbbells and dust." The shattering truth. My vision blurred. I gripped the edge of the bar to keep from collapsing. It wasn't just an affair. It wasn't just betrayal. It was theft, a conspiracy, a plan to strip me of everything I had built with sweat, blood, and years of sacrifice. They weren't just betraying me as a husband. They were betraying me as a man, as a dreamer, as a fighter. I stumbled out of the restaurant before I could explode, the cold night air slapping my face. My chest heaved, each breath cutting deeper than the last. The boiling point. Back at home, I stared at myself in the mirror. My reflection looked like a stranger. Hollow eyes, clenched jaw, veins pulsing at my temple. I remembered the nights I stayed up until 3 a.m. designing workout programs, the years I went without vacations to pour money into new equipment, the times Emily had cheered me on, telling me we were a team. A team. And now she was plotting with my best friend to erase me from my own story. But here's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't destroy you. It transforms you. As I stood there staring into the broken man in the mirror, something shifted inside me. I wasn't broken. I was dangerous. They wanted to play games? Fine. I'd play. But I wouldn't just watch this time. I would strike. And when I did, I'd make sure they regretted ever crossing me.
The next morning, Emily kissed my cheek as if nothing had happened. Her lips brushed mine with the same softness she'd shown 100 mornings before. but I felt nothing. Her kiss was ash. Her smile was a mask, and I was done playing the fool. "Good luck with the morning clients," she said sweetly, slipping into her jacket. "Kyle and I are working on some new training packages later. You'll love them." I forced a smile. "Of course, honey. I trust you both." She paused for a second, maybe sensing the sharp edge hidden beneath my words. But then she shrugged, grabbed her bag, and left. The moment the door clicked shut, I exhaled a breath I didn't know I was holding. My hand shook as I reached for my phone. I wasn't going to confront them blindly. Not yet. I was going to destroy them the smart way. Phase 1, surveillance. That afternoon, I called an old client of mine, Detective Mason Green. He was retired now, but back in the day, he'd been one of the sharpest investigators in the city. Mason had trusted me to train him through his back injury years ago, and we'd built a strange bond. He owed me. "Mason," I said, keeping my voice low, "I need a favor, a big one." There was a pause, then a grunt. "You sound like a man standing at the edge of a cliff. What's going on, Ethan?" "I can't explain everything yet, but I need proof. Pictures, recordings, anything you can dig up on my wife and Kyle." Another pause. Then his tone shifted, cold, professional. "Text me their details. I'll get back to you in 72 hours. Click. The call ended, leaving me in silence. For the first time in days, I felt a flicker of control. Phase 2, the mask. Over the next few days, I played my role. I laughed with Kyle. I kissed Emily goodnight. I trained clients, shook hands, clapped backs, all while my stomach churned with poison. But behind the mask, I was watching. Always watching. I saw how Emily's phone never left her side, how Kyle started taking mysterious business calls outside the gym, how they avoided eye contact with me when the three of us were in the same room. They thought they were clever. They thought I was blind. But every lie has a rhythm, and I was learning their song. The first crack. On Friday night, Emily claimed she was going to visit her sister. Instead, Mason's call lit up my phone. "Ethan," he said flatly. "I followed her. She's not at her sister's. She's at a downtown hotel with Kyle." The words stung even though I already knew. "Do you have proof?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Photos, video, audio. You'll have it all by morning. But that's not the part you need to hear." My stomach twisted. "What do you mean?" Mason's tone dropped to a growl. "They're not just sleeping together. They're planning to transfer your gym contracts to a new LLC they've set up in their names. I overheard everything." I gripped the phone so tight I thought it might crack. "They want to bleed you dry," Mason continued. "Your wife's the brains. The trainer boy is just a pawn with muscles. But she's ruthless, Ethan. She's playing you like a violin." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I'd suspected it, but hearing it confirmed was like being stabbed. "Send me everything," I finally managed. "You sure you're ready for this?" I didn't hesitate. I'm done being a victim. It's time to fight back. Phase 3, planting the seeds. The next day, I began my counterattack. At the gym, I casually mentioned to Kyle that I was considering retiring soon and handing more responsibilities over to him and Emily. His eyes lit up like a greedy child. "Really?" he asked, trying to mask his excitement. "Yeah," I said with a chuckle. "But I'll need to make sure all the finances are in order before I sign anything. We'll need to go over every detail carefully." He nodded eagerly, already imagining his victory. What he didn't know was that every conversation from that moment forward would be recorded. Mason had outfitted me with discreet audio gear. Every shady word, every lie, every whispered plan. I was collecting it all. And Emily? That night, I surprised her with flowers. Her eyes widened, and for a second, guilt flickered across her face, but she quickly masked it with a smile. "You're so thoughtful," she whispered, kissing me. If only she knew I was already building the case that would burn her entire world to the ground. The storm gathers. Within a week, Mason delivered a folder thick enough to choke a lawyer. Inside were photos of Emily and Kyle at hotels, recordings of their conversations about stealing the gym, financial documents showing the shadow company they'd registered in secret. It was all there, every thread of betrayal woven into a noose I now held in my hands. But revenge isn't just about exposing the truth. It's about timing. It's about precision. It's about watching your enemies walk willingly into the trap you've set for them. So I waited. The perfect stage. 2 weeks later, I announced a staff meeting at the gym. Everyone was there. Trainers, clients, even a few investors I'd invited under the guise of discussing expansion. Emily sat by my side, her hand on my knee, her smile as fake as her vows. Kyle leaned against the wall, arms crossed, radiating smug confidence. They thought tonight was the night I'd hand them everything. But tonight was the night I took it all back. I stood before the crowd, heart pounding, and began. Family. That's what this gym has always been about. Trust, loyalty, dedication. Unfortunately, I let my eyes rest on Emily, then Kyle. Unfortunately, I continued, my voice sharpening like a blade, not everyone in this room understands those values. A ripple of confusion moved through the crowd. Emily's smile faltered. Kyle shifted uneasily. I reached into my bag and pulled out Mason's folder. Over the past few weeks, I've uncovered something disturbing. Betrayal, deception, a plot to destroy everything we've built together. Gasps erupted around the room. Emily's face drained of color. Kyle's jaw tightened, and I just stood there, calm as fire. The trap had been sprung.
The room was frozen in stunned silence. Emily's voice, my wife's voice, still echoed in the air. Once he signs the papers, we'll take it all. He won't see it coming. Dozens of eyes burned into her and Kyle. Trainers, investors, loyal clients who had trusted us for years. Some jaws hung open, others shook their heads in disgust. Emily's face was white as a ghost. Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. She looked like a deer trapped in headlights. Kyle, on the other hand, tried to play it cool. He uncrossed his arms, straightened up, and sneered. "This is ridiculous," he barked. "You can't prove that's us. That could be anyone's voice." I didn't flinch. I simply pressed play on the second recording. Kyle's voice blared through the speaker. "Once Ethan hands the gym over, we'll shut him out. He's old news. Emily, this place will be ours." Gasps again. A woman in the back muttered, "Unbelievable." One of my longest clients, Greg, stood up and spat on the ground. "You disgust me, Kyle. We trusted you." The room erupted in whispers and murmurs. My heart pounded, but not from fear anymore. No, this was triumph. Years of sweat, sacrifice, and love weren't going to be stolen from me. Emily suddenly stood, her voice shrill and desperate. "Ethan, this isn't what it looks like. He pressured me. I didn't mean any of it. Please, you have to believe me." Her crocodile tears began to flow, mascara streaking down her face. She reached for my arm. I stepped back. The look I gave her was colder than ice. "You betrayed me. You betrayed us. You didn't just cheat on me, Emily. You tried to burn down the life we built together. And for what? Money? A cheap thrill with a kid half your age?" Her lip trembled. But before she could finish, I pulled out the stack of financial documents Mason had uncovered. "This isn't just about an affair," I announced, holding them high so everyone could see. "They registered a new company behind my back. They planned to transfer gym funds and client contracts under their names. They weren't just stabbing me in the heart. They were stabbing all of you, too." The crowd erupted in outrage. Trainers shouted. Investors demanded explanations. Clients muttered curses. Kyle stepped forward, his face red with fury. "You think you're clever, old man? You think this makes you the winner? You don't understand how business works. The gym was dying under you. Emily and I were saving it." "Saving it?" I shot back. "By stealing it?"
He lunged toward me, but two trainers, Marcus and Jen, stepped in front and shoved him back. "Touch him and you're out for good," Marcus growled. The final blow. I turned back to the crowd, raising my voice so everyone could hear. "I've already contacted my lawyer, and guess what? Every document they signed is in my name. Every cent they tried to move is frozen. Every attempt they made to steal this gem is on record. They're finished." Emily gasped. "No, you wouldn't." "Oh, I would," I cut in sharply. "You thought I was blind. You thought I was weak. But I was just patient. And now the world knows who you really are." I held up the final piece of evidence, photographs of Emily and Kyle sneaking into hotels. Mason made sure they were crystal clear. The room went silent again. This wasn't just betrayal of business. It was betrayal of love, family, vows. Some clients actually turned their backs on her right then and there. One investor whispered loudly, "Pulling my money if they stay involved." The walls were closing in, and Emily knew it. She dropped to her knees, tears streaming. "Ethan, please, don't do this. Don't humiliate me like this. I made a mistake, but I still love you." Her words rang hollow, a woman scorned by exposure, not by regret. I leaned down, my voice low but sharp enough for the whole room to hear. "You betrayed me, Emily. You loved the empire I built, and you thought you could steal it without consequence. But there's always a consequence."
Kyle exploded. "You're pathetic, Ethan. You think these people really care about you? They'll turn on you the second you slip up, just like I did." That was his mistake, because the crowd did answer. "No, Kyle," Jen shot back. "We'll turn on snakes like you." Applause broke out, at first hesitant, then louder, stronger, until the room echoed with claps and shouts of support. For me, not for them. Kyle's face twisted in rage. He grabbed Emily's arm. "Come on, we don't need him. We'll start our own gym, bigger, better." But Emily didn't move. She stared at the ground, humiliated, shattered, realizing the empire she'd schemed for had just collapsed around her. Kyle tugged harder. "Let's go." She yanked her arm away. "You ruined everything," she hissed at him. And just like that, the two snakes turned on each other. I didn't smile, not yet, but inside I felt the sweet burn of victory. Justice served. I walked to the center of the room, raising my hands. Everyone here deserves better than liars. That's why, effective immediately, Kyle is fired, and Emily, I paused, my throat tight for just a moment, is no longer part of my life or this gym. The finality in my voice cut like a blade. Emily sobbed. Kyle stormed out so hard the walls rattled. I stood there in the aftermath, surrounded by silence. Then Greg, the loyal client, started clapping slowly. Others joined, trainers, investors, clients, until the entire room shook with applause. Not because I'd humiliated them, but because I had taken back control. Because I had stood up against betrayal. And in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't the end of my story. It was just the beginning of a stronger one. That night, I sat alone in the gym office, staring at the divorce papers my lawyer had already drafted. Emily's signature would be nothing but a formality now. The gym was safe, my reputation intact, justice served. But as I looked around at the empty weight racks, the punching bags swaying slightly in the dark, I whispered to myself, they thought they could break me, but all they did was make me stronger. And with that, I began planning the final act of my revenge.
The weeks after that fateful confrontation were a blur. The fallout from Emily and Kyle's betrayal spread like wildfire. News of what had happened at my gym didn't just stay within those four walls. It leaked. Social media posts, whispers among clients. Even local business networks picked it up. Headlines in the community forums read, "Trainer exposes cheating wife and partner during gym launch. Fitness power couple's betrayal ends in public meltdown." Suddenly, everyone knew. And just like that, their empire of lies turned to ash. Emily's collapse. Emily tried to fight me at first. My lawyer sent the divorce papers and she refused to sign. She showed up at my apartment one night, mascara running, hair a mess, begging, "Ethan, please, we can fix this. Don't let years of marriage go to waste. I made a mistake, but I cut her off. My voice calm, steady. "You didn't make a mistake, Emily. You made a choice, and now you have to live with it." Her tears didn't move me anymore. She wasn't crying because she lost me. She was crying because she lost the money, the status, the empire. Within a month, she caved. The divorce was finalized. She got nothing but what the court forced me to give her. A small settlement, pennies compared to what she schemed for. Kyle's downfall. Kyle didn't take humiliation well. He tried to open his own gym 2 blocks away. Big, flashy signs, overpriced memberships. He bragged online about being the future of fitness. But here's the thing about reputation. Once it's gone, it's gone. Clients didn't forget what he did. Trainers refused to work with him. Investors laughed in his face. Within 3 months, his gym closed its doors. Bankruptcy. Debt collectors chasing him. And the cherry on top, one of his former clients sued him for fraud. I didn't even have to lift my finger. Karma did the heavy lifting for me. The gym reborn. Meanwhile, my gym flourished. The betrayal, ironically, brought us closer as a community. Clients said they felt proud to train at a place where truth and loyalty actually mattered. Memberships doubled. New investors reached out. Trainers who had once doubted me now stood proudly by my side. And for the first time in years, I felt alive again. Not because I was richer, not because the gym was more successful, but because I knew who I could trust. An unexpected letter. Just when I thought the storm had passed, a letter arrived in my mailbox. The return address? A rehabilitation clinic. It was from Kyle. I unfolded it, my hands steady, but my heart curious. "Ethan," it read, "I know I have no right to ask for your forgiveness, but I need you to know that Emily left me. She drained what little I had left and disappeared. I'm broke, alone, and I see now that everything I touched, I destroyed. I ruined your marriage, I ruined your trust, and I ruined myself. If there's one lesson I've learned, it's this. Greed doesn't just steal from others. It eats you alive. I don't expect you to reply, but I needed you to hear it." That Christmas, the first one without Emily, I decorated the gym with my team. Lights wrapped around weight racks. A Christmas tree stood in the corner, ornaments shaped like dumbbells and kettlebells, Marcus's idea. Clients brought cookies, kids of members ran around laughing. And as I stood there, watching my community thrive, I realized something profound. Family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's the people who stand with you when the storm hits. I raised a glass and said to everyone, to loyalty, to strength, and to never letting betrayal define us. The cheers were loud, the smiles genuine. For the first time in years, Christmas didn't feel heavy. It felt free. Later that night, after everyone had gone, I sat alone in the gym office, the quiet hum of the heater, the faint twinkle of Christmas lights outside. I thought back to the man I was, blind, trusting, too forgiving. And then I thought about the man that I had become, sharper, stronger, wiser. Emily and Kyle thought they were burying me, but all they did was plant a seed. And now I had grown into something unshakable. Final message to the audience. I leaned back in my chair and whispered words I knew many needed to hear. Betrayal isn't the end of your story. It's the test that shows you who you are. Don't let their lies break you. Let them sharpen you. Because in the end, the truth always wins. And with that, I shut off the lights, locked the doors, and stepped into a new beginning.